Hi, I am Coach Megan with Summit Health, and I am going to show you how to make a recipe with MyFitnessPal. This is super beneficial because it helps you be able to eat foods that are put together and then cooked. Like in Minnesota, we would call maybe something like that a hot dish, or a casserole. Or just anything really where you're combining macros and then you want to know what the end result might be. I'm doing a recipe that's going to be shared. It's a Skinny Taste curry vegetable, and it's just roasted vegetables. And this is a common thing that you're probably going to eat, roasted vegetables. But if it's not just a single vegetable on your pan, you're going to need to know how to figure out the macros for that. So in my bowl here, oh dear, dropping my scale. In my bowl here, I've got red peppers, red onions, and sweet potatoes. And then I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I have some curry powder and some cumin, and whatever else the recipe asked for. And then what you're gonna see I did was I wrote down the grams of each ingredient that I cut up and put in. So I have 617 grams of sweet potato, I have 276 grams of red bell pepper, and I have 282 grams of red onion. The recipe simply says, give me 1 red onion. Well, you don't know what the weight of your personal red onion is. So you need to be making your own recipes, entering the own weights of your own ingredients. Like 1 red onion could be huge or it could be really little, and then you have different carbohydrate contents for your recipe. Things that I don't track, I do not track my spices. If you are stalling on weight loss, it probably isn't because you're eating too much garlic powder, if we're being honest. It's probably because you're taking bites of food that you're not tracking. It's probably because you're not pre-planning your day. It's probably because you're drinking alcohol and then you're going, who cares, and you're snacking at 10 o'clock at night. It's probably because you aren't walking around, parking further away. There's lots of things that are causing you maybe to stall out in your weight loss. I'm gonna guess it's probably not that extra teaspoon of cumin that you might consume throughout your week. So I personally don't track spices, but you can. And if there's a lot that you're using, maybe you would want to. Or if you're trying to track your salt intake, then I would recommend that you do that. Otherwise, I'm gonna get this on a sheet pan. It's gonna start roasting in the oven. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna walk you through the process of putting in your recipe in MyFitnessPal with a little screen share. Okay, I'm gonna be working on making the recipe for the recipe that we're working on in MyFitnessPal. So I'm going to go to me. I'm going to go to my items, recipes. You can see I have 190 recipes, so I love to make recipes. Create. I've never made this one. You can add from the web, but I just feel like it doesn't work accurately and you end up spending more time trying to make things up. So I almost always enter ingredients manually. I would call this curried veggies. You can call this whatever you want to remember it. I did not look at how many servings it has, but that's not how I do this anyways. So I'm going to say there's 1 serving. Done. And then we're going to go to next. We're going to add ingredients. So we're going to search for sweet potato. I can't spell. Summit Health. There it is, 100 grams. This is for raw weight. I know that I have 617 grams, so I'm gonna go 617 grams. Save. And then I'm gonna add in my red bell pepper. I'm not sure if Summit Health has one. So I'm just gonna look for bell pepper in grams. Somebody has it listed in grams here. Let's see. I wanna make sure that I have one that seems accurate. Honestly, a green bell pepper versus a red bell pepper, it's all going to be about the same. So let's see. This one looks good. We're going to do 1 gram. I have 276 grams. And I have onion. We have that in Summit Health. Let's look. For some reason, we do not. So I'm just going to search for onion. There it is, verified with that little green check. I know that I have 282 grams. See, your grams are all going to be different than mine. So it's important that you make your own recipes. Even if you follow something off of some macro-friendly website, it's still, let's see, do we have a Summit Health entry? Your ingredients are going to be different. Here we go, broccoli. I like broccoli. I have even 400. And then this recipe has a oil sauce, like an oil and honey sauce that you can put over it, that you put over the veggies when they're warm. And I'm going to include it in mine. So I have 3 tablespoons, or I have olive oil. I have 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So I'm going to do 3 of those. That's 40 grams of fat. My oven is beeping. And then I'm going to add the honey. I have a tablespoon of honey. This is 1 teaspoon, so 1 teaspoon is, there's 3 in each tablespoon. And that's all that I need for the recipe. There's spices that are left, but I'm not going to include those. So here's my recipe. If you ate all the veggies, this is what your macros would look like. Now, obviously, there's not a lot, let's say there's 8 servings. This recipe does not have a lot of protein. I picked it because it gave me the option to provide a recipe that my vegetarian clients could also use. But a great way to increase the protein on this would be to add chickpeas if you're vegetarian, or you could throw chicken brats on there and cook them with them in the last 12 minutes, or you could, you know, put chicken breast in a bowl and add these on top, or there's lots of different things that you could do. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the, here, let's stop this. Okay, this is the sauce that goes on top of the vegetables once they're warm. And it has 2 tablespoons of olive oil in it. And it has a tablespoon of honey. So that's a lot of carbs and fat just from a sauce. Sauces add up quickly. So if you are tracking macros and you have lower fats right now, you might want to either skip this extra sauce, or if you have plenty of fats, but say you have multiple people in your house that track macros, you could just make this its own recipe and know the weight of this in grams. And then when you go to serve it, you could pick how much of it that you want to put on your own veggie dish. That way somebody could have more fat or less fat, or more carbs or less carbs, you know, just depending on what their day is. You're not stuck to a certain serving size. You're not stuck to that many macros on your veggies. I strongly recommend that you do something like that. My family has just a couple of us tracking macros, and we all are in maintenance, so we have higher fats. So I'm just going to include it in the recipe and eat it as a main course. The veggies are done, and now I'm going to weigh them and the sauce so that I know how much the finished weight is. So one thing that you can do is you can know the weight of your bowls. I have written how much my bowl weighs on the bottom. But if you don't need to do that right now, you can just put your bowl on, hit tare, and then I'm going to add the sauce in the bottom. That added about 60 grams of weight. And then I'm going to add the veggies in. Wish me luck. Okay, and then I know the finished weight for the veggies is 1,374. Now I've noticed that with steam gets lost, they weigh a little bit less, so I'm gonna put it in as 1,370 grams. Once you know the weight of your finished recipe, you can go back and edit your recipe. You can change the serving to how much it weighs in grams. So I know my finished recipe weighs 1,370 grams. Save. And then I have the choice now to weigh out my recipe in grams and eat as much or as little of it as I want. Say I'm trying to play macro Tetris, and I need a certain amount of carbs, fats, and proteins. So I can't have a full serving, or I have a lot left and I can have 1.5 servings. I don't want 4 containers in the fridge full of my servings. I want 1 container that I can scoop out of. So let's just say I'm going to have 200 grams. So I would put my plate on, or I'd put my bowl on the scale, and I would hit tare so that now it equals 0. And I would scoop out 200 grams of this recipe onto my plate that I'm going to eat. And here is what the macros would look like for that. So again, you would go to edit recipe, and in the servings box, you would put how much the recipe weighs in grams. Then when you go to add it to your diary, you can put how many grams you want. I think that is the easiest way to do this. If you have questions, please reach out. I'm going to be live on Sunday to talk about it.